Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video we're going to do our final, pre-season video looking at SuperCoach BBL. So as you can see just below my head in the top right corner, at the time of recording we have 6 days until the Big Bash kicks off. So it will be during the Brisbane Test match, which means obviously the Australian Test players are still out, that sort of thing, which will potentially impact some of our decisions regarding SuperCoach. But before we get into, my team and where it's at, I thought we would just quickly have a look at the most popular options across the league. You'll be able to see some of the ones I've picked and haven't. As you can see, the top two most expensive guys I've clearly got in at the moment. But the little trick is if you've got SuperCoach Plus, you just go to Coaches Choices and select all coaches. Obviously, if you select top 1% or whatever, it won't work because there's no one in the top 1% yet. So you do have to go to all coaches. And so this will show you the most popular players by ownership. And then you can use that to help make your decisions if you're a bit unsure. But Marcus Stoinis, number one, with his upside, his price, double game week, first up for the Stars, I think it's a no-brainer. Adam Zampa, copy and paste, obviously doesn't have the batting side of it, but is a very handy bowler, so lock him in. Matt Short and Glenn Maxwell, number 3 and 4, so it'd be interesting to see if you could get some stats on who owns both. Who owns only the one, and I guess also who owns neither. Obviously at 43-44% owned, some people do have neither. That's the way numbers work. So I think it's a bit risky just given they're valued highly because of their ability. In saying that, I did see Maxwell's under a little injury cloud, so this could change this week. I don't have the draw here, but particularly if they play the first game, it could be something you do a late switch on. In saying that, even if he's out of the first one, he could be right for the second one. And then also, I guess you do have to find a way to get him in your team later on anyway. So next to a couple of the Renegades boys, Fraser McGurk and Sutherland. I don't mind Fraser McGurk particularly in the flex spot, which we'll talk about a bit when we look at my team. He has that high risk, high reward sort of game. And Sutherland, I don't know if even if he is playing, I don't know if he's going to bowl. And his value in SuperCoach really is if he's that all-rounder that's going to bowl 4 overs, bat in the top 6, which I don't think he will to start the season. So I'm steering clear of them. But can understand why they're so popular. I think Will Sutherland's probably too high. Fraser McGurk, if you've got the money, is fair enough. Aaron Hardy at number 7. He's one I would love to have in the team. At the moment, I've just got him out for balance. You can't have all of the guns. I mean, if you're going without Short and or Maxwell, you can definitely afford Hardy and a couple of those, on the next tier down. So there is definitely an argument for that. But at the moment, I've gone top heavy just to make sure I have those guys in the squad. Sam Harper at number 8. They've brought in Joe Clark to deputise for Ben Duckett. So you'd imagine whichever one of those two is up would be the keeper and the opening batsman. So Harper's cheap, but I don't really see a path to him getting in the team. Bo Webster is currently with the Australian squad, so imagine he could travel for the next game and therefore would not be eligible. But if he's dropped from the squad, the one thing with the Stars is, he doesn't bowl that much given they've got Maxwell, Stoinis, and then they still probably play 4 frontline bowlers after that. But if Maxwell's out, could be a nice little point of difference, although at 35% isn't really that much of a point of difference. Doran, cheap wicket keeper. I suppose if you've just got him as a squad member, that's fine, but you do want to try and generate cash too. Philippi, I guess just the Sixers don't have the double for the first 2, which is why I've avoided him, but he definitely will come into the squad. once he's got a couple of extra fixtures in the bank. Constas, if he plays, I will bring him in. I've just got someone else taking up that top order spot at the Thunder, but it could be a wait and see and a last minute sort of change. Tom Curran, I guess same sort of category as Aaron Hardy. Doesn't bat as high in the order as Hardy, but we know what he can produce at the Big Bash level. So a bit cheaper, I don't mind getting him in for the double first up. Josh Inglis, if he's withdrawn from the Australian squad like he was this time around for the Sheffield Shield, definitely one to consider, given they've got the double in game week 2. Saltzman, cheap all-rounder. Again, if he gets a game, he will find his way into the team. But not too sure how the Thunder are going to line up at the moment. Baisley, I think a lot of people are hopeful on. If he gets a game, you find a spot for him. Buckingham, same thing. I've got him as the placeholder at the moment. But it could be Saltzman, it could be Constas with a couple of dual trades. Could be Baisley. It just depends on what comes up. Cooper Connolly is a chance. Originally out injured, but what is a chance of getting a run. But generally doesn't bowl that much for the Scorchers, just given their depth in their bowling. So probably one I'd give a miss at the moment. Tim David, he's in my flex spot at the moment. At his price and his potential, it's not the worst play. Spencer Johnson, Jai Richardson, I guess very similar. I've gone Richardson just because of the double in game week 2, but, have an either or in your squad. If you can fit both, that's even better. Renshaw, cheap batsman, so he could be one that slots in your flex spot. Overton, again, if you've got the cash because you're not going with Short or Maxwell, could definitely get him in. Kane Richardson is one that could be on the outer, potentially. But, again, you want to see how the Renegades line up. He could come in if other players aren't picked instead. And Nisa apparently has got a bit of an injury concern, so it might be one to avoid. Moses, probably one I'd avoid. Warner's probably a bit too expensive, although, could outscore that easy enough. Josh Brown's an interesting one if he gets a game. Sean Abbott, I've got him on the same sort of par as Richardson Johnson. It's just his batting, I guess, is why I've included him. One more top 30, Harry Nielsen, cheap wicketkeeper. He's going to probably play with Alex Carey on international duty, but generally bats in the middle order, so not the best choice, but a cheap number if you got him. Daniel Sams is just there too. Again, another quality all-rounder, just probably doesn't have the fixture to start. But in saying all that, we will go through my squad. And so for the first game week, I've gone with the 2 Melbourne keepers, Joe Clark, Tom Seifert. I've sort of gone around and around with a few keepers, but have just landed on these guys because they do have the double in game week 1. Clark might have to be traded out sooner rather than later, but Seifert, should be here for the season, so I think they'll lock him in as the keeping option. So he could even end up here. Again, it's going to come down to fixtures, so you'll see the Stars play first. So, if you see Clark in the list, you're more inclined to lock him in. Otherwise, if he sort of slides down the order, which I would doubt, Seifert can slide across. As you can see, I've currently got Short and Maxwell. Curran and Stoinis we've already touched on. But Hassan Khan I've brought in from the Renegades, obviously on the double. He is replacing Bethel, who's actually going quite well over in New Zealand with the English team. So for the first double game week, I'd imagine a similar role for him. I think they said he's a left arm spinner as well. I don't know if that's wrist spin or orthodox finger spin. But, if he bats in that middle order, bowls his overs, like I said, particularly with Sutherland out, I think he's got some good upside for round 1. But on the bench, I've gone with Mackenzie Harvey. I think he'll find his way somewhere in the team. Don't know if it'll be in the top 3. If it is, that's a fantastic. If it's a bit more in the middle order, we'll cop that. Madison, I've got him taking one of the top order spots there at the Thunder. But again, if that's Constas, easy swap when they play on Tuesday. Bowlers, I've gone with Abbott and Richardson. Obviously, Spencer Johnson is in that category too. If I could squeeze him in with the budget, I would, but I can't. It is a good argument for, particularly squeezing out Maxwell. But again, you want to see what happens with the first game on Sunday. If Maxwell's not named, probably will be downgraded. Get Hardy, Johnson. If I can squeeze Overton in there as well, that would be amazing. But at the moment, I can't. Fergus O'Neill, I've got as a bit of a roughie there at the Renegades. He could become Tom Rogers. Potentially, I don't know if I've actually got enough money for that anymore. I should put Rogers in. Yeah, so just short of Rogers. So I am sort of banking on O'Neill getting the spot. It could be Kane Richardson, I suppose, if it works out that way. All right, but again, it is relying on a few other moving pieces. Mackenzie with the Pakistani spinner Mia out. I think he becomes the frontline spinner there at the Stars, so makes sense. Siddle, if he's named, at his price is worth a pop. Buckingham, we're hoping for a cheapie, particularly given my budget isn't too flash. Could become Saltzman or something like that if need be. And then David I've got as my flex. So basically how the flex works, if I haven't already covered this or you haven't seen it, is it's basically you get 12 players and your best 11 count. So you can see I've gone pretty heavy on all-rounders and bowlers. They generally do score more consistently than out-and-out batters. But I guess by having one in your flex that can go big, and I've gone with David, but if Harvey or Madison are opening, could easily slot them in. I guess being game week 1, it could even be Harvey on the double game week. You put them in, and if they go off, fantastic, you get their score. If they get out for a first ball duck, well, it doesn't matter because you get the other 11 scores anyway. So that's the thinking with the flex, is it's going to be basically for a top-end batsman, pretty cheap, just to get a flyer. And obviously bank those points. If not, we'll take the consistent bowlers and all-rounders, those sorts of scores. So that's the squad as it stands. Obviously, a lot can change in the next 6 days. When is if I just lock in the save the team. So the first game is on Sunday. We'll try to get on this weekend. It will be Sunday. Got our big sort of end of year Christmas do on Saturday night, so I could be a bit dusty. I might not even get on the camera. If that's the case, it could just be a extra gruff voice over the screen. Could even just be a note on the Facebook, on the YouTube, if need be. But I will endeavour to get on and finalise the team. And again, I don't know if I'll be able to get on in time to sort of confirm the Maxwell trade and that. It could be potential, but we'll see. That's why I thought I'd get on now, update the team where it's at, where my thinking is, and go from there. But as always, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the BBL content. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.